Welcome back to the Weeknight Mysteries podcast. My name is Yuras, and as every week, I am here with my co-host Rain.
Hello, yours. Hello, everyone. How are you guys doing today?
Well, I'm good. I hope the audience members are also feeling good. Please leave a comment in the comment section of our YouTube channel if you feel good today.
That's pretty weird.
It's a weird introduction, but let's just keep going because we're just testing new software right now for recording, so we have to keep pushing here.
Okay.
Today we have a new podcast about a different case, a case that we had not yet talked about. It's a case of a missing woman, a woman that had vanished this year. We're going to be talking about Sara Ebersole's disappearance. Sara Ebersole is a 26-year-old woman who vanished earlier in the year on the 2nd of March from Central Florida near a very kind of small town of Reddick. I have been looking into this case for the last couple of days, and I actually wanted to record this podcast a little bit earlier in the week, but due to some circumstances, we couldn't really push out this podcast that quickly. So hopefully the audience members will understand that. Now, let's, I think, jump into the information that I have on this case. And feel free to stop me at any point during the podcast, and we will be able to kind of talk over every detail that you might find interesting in this case. Sara Ebersole has an older sister named Michelle Tullis. She is quite a bit older than Sara. She's 40 years of age and Sara is 26. So there's like 14-year gap between the two women. But Sara's older sister, Michelle, has been fighting very hard to keep her younger sister's, Sara's, case in the limelight. Basically, she's trying to talk to the media. She's very active on her Facebook account, and she's providing new information about the disappearance. That's why I want to kind of start off with this particular detail, just because I want to plug her change.org petition that is currently happening. The goal is to collect 500 signatures. I already signed it, and I suggest everyone who is listening to our podcast to go to change.org, find Sara Ebersole's case, and sign the petition. I want to read a little bit of information from the petition. It's going to make a lot more sense once I kind of get into it, and I will explain why I decided to start off the podcast with plugging the petition. So I'm just going to read what's written in the petition, and then we can take it from there. Sara Ebersole, a 27-year-old woman from Reddick, Florida, has been missing for 9 months now. Despite the passage of time and the tireless efforts of her loved ones, there are still no answers about her whereabouts. On the night of March 2nd, which was a Thursday, until the early hours of March 3rd, which was early hours of Friday, of this year, Sara was last seen with Teesha McDermitt, James Schaller, and James Robinson. Her iCloud records show activity up until 1:22 a.m. on that fateful morning. The Marion County Sheriff's Department is aware of these individuals and their potential involvement in Sara's disappearance, yet they have not taken all necessary steps to investigate this case thoroughly, specifically subpoenaing cell phone records from these individuals, as well as Leonard Anderson, a Chevy Silverado driver who was also potentially involved. Cell phone data can provide crucial information in missing person cases, according to a study by the National Institute of Justice. Cell phone data has been instrumental in solving numerous cases across America by providing investigators with location information and communication history. We implore the Marion County Sheriff's Department to take this vital step towards finding our beloved Sara by subpoenaing these cell phone records immediately. This action could shed light on what happened during those critical hours when Sara vanished without a trace. Please sign this petition urging law enforcement officials to use every tool at their disposal in their search for Sara Ebersole, because every second counts when someone is missing. So I urge everyone to go and sign the petition. I'm pretty sure we're going to leave this in the description of this podcast, in the YouTube channel, as well as in the podcast apps, wherever you can find the podcast. So please go there and please sign the petition. This is important because now we're going to jump into the details of the case. But I just wanted to make sure that I have this out there in front so that people wouldn't forget. And I want to, at least in some way, help this case get to a resolution. And perhaps if those cell phone records will be investigated, police will be able to find new information that might lead to a resolution. Sounds good? Shall we jump into the details?
Sounds good. Let's go for it.
Okay, so now let's go over the information that we do have about Sara's disappearance. So, according to Fox 35 Orlando, which was published in November 8th, the article, Sara was reported missing on March 8th. So she was actually reported 5 days later after she went missing because apparently her roommate was trying to report her missing like the same day, but law enforcement told her that she had to wait at least a week before she could report her as a missing person.
A week?
A week is very long.
It's really long. Wasn't it supposed to be like 24 hours?
Yeah, that's my understanding, that it usually should be like 24 hours.
Should they let 24 hours pass, or could it be reported before or within that 24 hours?
I don't know, dude. I feel like 1 week is too much.
It's way too long.
In this situation. So Sara reportedly left her room that day without taking any clothes with her. She has not posted anything on social media, and her financial accounts have shown no activity. Now, I want to talk a little bit about what is actually known about Sara's disappearance. We know that Sara, on March 2nd, which was a Thursday, was actually given a ride by a man named James Robinson from a Circle K gas station close to the city of Reddick in Central Florida to where he was residing, to his own house. So James Robinson is this man who's giving Sara Ebersole a ride. Now, the house was located just across the street from the Circle K, and I have this map here for us to look at as well, because I was able to find the location here on the Google Maps. We know for a fact that Sara actually willingly left the Circle K in a black pickup truck. We have a CCTV image of that pickup truck parked in the gas station. We also have images that Sara took from inside of that black pickup truck that she had sent to her older sister Michelle, because she was in contact with Michelle. A little bit on Sara's day leading up to her disappearance in a little bit. We also have some images from the evening that she spent at James Robinson's house. Once again, she was there with two other individuals, James Shaw and another woman named Teesha McDermitt. So they were all hanging out, kind of having an evening at this house. Deputies did not reveal the relationship between Sara and this man, James Robinson. I am personally under the assumption that she did not know this James Robinson beforehand. That's what her older sister claims, that she just made a spontaneous decision in that gas station to kind of go and hang out with this person. Now, Sara Ebersole reportedly spent some time with James Robinson that night, as well as James Schaller and Teesha McDermitt, these other two people who also lived in that house across the street from the Circle K. So far, you're still following me here, right?
Yeah, but one quick clarification.
Yeah, sure.
Sara went to James
Robinson's house.
Yeah, James Robinson, and in that house there were 4 of them.
In total,
yeah. The 2 Jameses, Teesha, and her,
yeah,
Sara. Okay,
exactly.
got it.
So, That night, sometime after midnight, Sara either left that residence alive or she didn't. The
Ooh.
Marion County Sheriff Office stated this. According to the Marion County Sheriff's Office, if the residents of that house are to be believed, Sara Ebersole reportedly left the home with an alleged Uber driver. The vehicle of the Uber driver was described as a newer model blue sedan, possibly a Hyundai. It was allegedly being driven by a Hispanic man in his mid-30s, approximately 5'8" tall, with a thin build and long dark hair. So now we have a situation where law enforcement doesn't really know if they believe the residents of that house. The house itself looks like something from a Resident Evil game. It looks like that Resident Evil biohazard house. Looks like a very kind of shady spot. But pictures from inside of the house, when the group of people were hanging out, looks a little bit better. But I'm just saying, outside of the house looks like that biohazard Resident Evil game, which looks just terrifying. If you had played that game, you would know what I'm talking about. Now, yeah, sorry, you wanted to jump in?
No, I just wanted to say that I was actually really surprised because I was imagining an all-American house, picturesque with picket fences, and you know what I mean. Nice lawn. This was the opposite.
Yeah, it looks like not that nice of a house here. On top of that, later on, according to Sarah's older sister Michelle, she found out that all of those three people were actually squatting.
Oh, this makes sense.
In the property. So they were staying there illegally. Well, maybe legally. I don't know what the legal situation is regarding that, but I don't think they were the owners of that property.
That's pretty weird. Made those three people extra shady, in my opinion.
Exactly. Well, let's keep moving. Detectives investigated the Uber ride claim because they, I think, contacted Uber, and they were able to establish that Sara actually did not order any Uber services on the night that she disappeared. But law enforcement did not rule out the possibility that Sara could have potentially received an off-the-books ride from a Gainesville-based Uber driver. Gainesville is like another town kind of close to this general house. Okay? Now, a little bit of a backstory on Sara herself, because I think it's very important for us to start digging into her background, because there are some details that I think you might find interesting here. Michelle Turles, Sara's older sister, told NBC News that Sara is the youngest of 7 children in their family. Despite their significant age difference, Michelle said that she and Sara are extremely close with each other. Michelle is 40 while Sara was 26 at the time of her disappearance. Michelle claims that Sara was more of a younger, she claims that she was more of a child to her than a sister, which makes sense when you're that much older. You know what I mean? You almost feel like you're the mother of that person. According to Michelle, Sara was primarily raised by their maternal uncle and aunt in Sarasota, about 2 hours away from Reddick, also in Florida. Michelle described her sister as a free spirit who thinks everything is sunshine and rainbows. She pretty much is an explorer, Michelle said. It doesn't matter if someone says, let's go four-wheeling, let's go swimming, let's go for a ride on a surfboard or any new experience. Sara would be down to go. When Sara turned 18 in 2014, she officially moved out of her older sister's home because she was staying with Michelle at that time and settled in with her new husband. She married her sister's Michelle's neighbor down the street. She moved in with him right down the road from Michelle's house. The marriage didn't last long. Within that same year, they were already separated because they were just too young. So Sara did marry at 18. At the time of her disappearance in March, Sara was living with a roommate in Reddick. Michelle last spoke with her sister Sara on the same day when she went missing on March 2nd. According to Michelle, Sara worked as an exotic dancer at the time of her disappearance, and she needed a ride home that night. Sara messaged her older sister Michelle around 7 p.m. asking if Michelle was able to give her a ride home after work that day because she needed to go back home from the exotic dancing work. However, Michelle wasn't available. At 7:50 p.m., Sara messaged Michelle again and told her to tell her kids, so Michelle's own kids, to say hi for her and to tell them that she loved them. At 10:11 p.m., Sara sent another message stating that she was getting into a random truck with some cowboys and that she hoped they would take her on a ride. This was the last time Michelle heard from her sister. So this is the same pickup truck that she was getting into that Circle K gas station. The next day, Michelle knew something was wrong because when she called her sister Sara, it went straight to voicemail. Then Sara's roommate messaged asking if Michelle had heard from Sara. Michelle said that it's extremely unlike Sara to not respond to messages, especially from her roommate. Michelle told the media that the roommate attempted to file a missing persons report that same day, but said that police told her that she needed to wait a week to see if Sara would return, which is bizarre in my opinion. Shouldn't be like a week.
Oh yeah, definitely not.
According to Michelle, Sara also has a daughter who lives primarily with her father, Sara's ex-boyfriend, Joseph Mayton. And this is where things are gonna get pretty dark and suspicious really quick. According to Michelle, Sara hadn't seen her daughter in around 2 to 3 weeks before her disappearance. Michelle told the media that she has been investigating her sister's disappearance on her own and was able to locate the black truck, the vehicle, and identify the two men with whom her sister was last seen. According to Michelle, one of the men's roommates told her that they were all hanging out with Sara that night at their residence in Reddick, that shady house that we've talked about earlier, but that Sara left in a blue vehicle around 3 or 5 a.m. So they weren't really certain when. Maybe they were kind of under the influence of alcohol, so they couldn't really tell. Did she leave at 3 a.m.? Did she leave at 5 a.m.? I personally found that detail a little bit shady because how do you not keep track of time? But who knows? Authorities have determined the identity of the two males in the black truck as well. Sara was seen getting into the Circle K at the Circle K gas station on the evening of March 2nd. Law enforcement said that the men have already been interviewed. Investigators now believe that Sara was actually last seen during the early morning hours of March 3rd getting into a blue-colored sedan, possibly a Hyundai. So basically what I'm just trying to say, because I know like the timeline could be a little bit confusing here, and I know I've done a lot of reading in this podcast so far, but I just kind of wanted to read these details so I wouldn't forget. So law enforcement, as I understand, are now actually leaning towards the fact that Sara did in fact get into the Uber driver, that this Uber driver did exist. Now, I want to talk a little bit about that house that I mentioned earlier. So, cadaver dogs may have found something related to Sara's case at the house where she was last seen. Marion County Search and Rescue and their cadaver dogs searched that property where Sara was last seen alive. After hours of searching, those dogs may have found something. We don't really know what that is, but they got triggered in that house or around that house. I'm not really certain exactly where, but on the property. The volunteering organization did not specify what the dogs found exactly, and if it has anything to do with Sara's disappearance at all. Rescue Team Director Frank Marino said all 3 of their search dogs reacted to something nearby. Michelle, Sara's older sister, demanded that Marion County Sheriff's deputies investigated the property for a month. She even started a petition online. After a month of combing through Sara's social accounts and iCloud accounts, she still couldn't track her sister down. Because those dogs caught a trace of something, the location has since been turned over to Marion County Sheriff's Office for investigation. And this is where I kind of stop reading what I have here. And we kind of want to jump into the details of the case. So I just kind of want to quickly sum up what we know so far about the case. So we know that Sara Ebersole was working on the day when she went missing. Somewhere around 7 p.m., she texted her older sister asking if she could get a ride back home. Now, the sister was apparently busy, and she told her that, unfortunately, I can't make it. So for some reason, 50 minutes later, Sara texted Michelle again to ask her to let her kids know that she loved them. Now, 2 hours later at 10 p.m., Sara texted her sister one more time, and she said that I'm getting it into a random truck with some cowboys, and I hope that he will give me a ride. And these were James Robinson and actually another man named Leonard Anderson. Now, to kind of explain what's happening here, Leonard Anderson is the owner and the driver of that black pickup truck. He did not spend the night with the group. He just drove them across the street to that weird, shady house. Then he drove away to his own home, which was somewhere in Reddick, close by. So he was only the driver. So he's kind of not really that interesting to us. He could be potentially somehow connected to Sara's disappearance, but he's just the driver of the black pickup truck. Now, James Robinson is a guy who was in the truck, but also he probably convinced Sara to go hang out with him in his house. And in his house, there were two other people. Remember, Teesha McDermitt and James Shaw, another person. So far, everything's kind of clear. Now, the people that were in the house with Sara, they claim that Sara called an Uber and went home with an Uber driver somewhere around 3 to 5 a.m. However, law enforcement checked Uber and they realized that Sara did not take an official Uber drive, but she potentially took an off-the-books Uber drive.
You mean to say she booked an Uber driver, and when the Uber driver arrived in the place, in her place, or well, James Robinson's place, they canceled the booking, and then the Uber driver just took her home?
Yeah, I think it could be happening like that. Also, after some digging on Michelle Tullis' Facebook account, you know Michelle Tullis,
the sister.
The older sister, I did find that Michelle Tullis somehow was able to look into phone contacts from Sara's phone, or somehow she had a hold of it. I don't really know exactly how she managed to do that, but Sara apparently had 3 people in her phone contacts named as Uber drivers. So it could be a situation where she didn't even use the app. She just knew someone who was an Uber driver, but maybe she already knows that, oh, this person is good if I just give them a call. I don't even need to use the app.
Yeah, which makes sense because I was actually wondering if it was actually possible. Like, for example, if I book a trip from Uber and if I cancel it, wouldn't there be a record somewhere that I actually booked it and I canceled it?
Yeah, exactly. That's a good point. That's a good point. So as I understand, she just phoned this person. Okay, so I've done a lot of digging on Michelle Tullis' Facebook because if you really want to get the juicy details in Sara disappearance case, like the details that actually matter in this case, that could actually lead to some sort of a, something interesting, you really have to go to Michelle Tullis' Facebook account here because the news outlets do not have all of the information. And I was able to establish some more details and some very dark information regarding this disappearance case. I just want to kind of quickly walk you through what I was able to find on Michelle Tullis' Facebook account. She has a public Facebook account. You could go to her posts, pictures, and find all this information. So the first thing I was able to establish that Leonard Anderson was the driver of the black pickup truck. So this is where Leonard Anderson comes in. But I don't think he's that much of a person of interest, in my opinion, right now, because he does seem just like a guy who gave them a ride to the James Robinson's house where he was squatting. I also found out that the last picture of Sara was actually taken with this woman called Teesha McDermitt at 1:22 a.m. After that, there are no more records on her iCloud account, which I think Michelle Tullis, her older sister, believed that someone on purpose turned off Sara's phone after 1:22 a.m., which is weird. And how did she end up calling the Uber driver? I don't really know how to explain that. Teesha McDermitt provided a witness statement that led to the alleged driver. Teesha was allegedly cooperative and helpful. So this woman, Teesha McDermitt, was actually the one who provided the description of the alleged Uber driver. James Schaller provided photos with timestamps from inside the house taken on his device. Michelle never spoke to James Robinson, that guy from Circle K, the one that I guess convinced Sara to go spend the evening with him and his friends in the house where they were squatting. Hopefully this is still making sense. I know there's a lot of names here in this case, but I'm trying my best here. It's so far understandable. Please,
Yeah, so far understandable.
yeah, please stop me if some of these names are confusing or if something is kind of harder to understand here. Michelle allegedly never spoke to this James Robinson, but she was able to get in contact with Teesha and James Shaw, that other guy. Michelle also never talked with Leonard Anderson, the truck driver. The alleged driver, we know who he is, apparently.
This was the Uber driver.
Yeah,
Okay.
somehow, some way, Michelle Tullis was able to locate this guy. And he is a guy named Ryan Spivac. Yeah, Ryan Spivac. We even have some of his images that I was able to download from Michelle's Facebook page. And he does match the description. He does look a little bit Hispanic. I would say maybe he looks a little bit more like a white guy. But
And the last name is pretty different.
yeah, and the first name is also Ryan. Kind of pretty generic white guy's name, I would say. But at the same time, in a dark setting, I could see how this guy could be confused for a Hispanic man with long black hair. He does have that characteristic. Wouldn't you
Yeah.
agree?
I agree.
You would confuse this guy for maybe a Hispanic man. And so we do know him. And now this is where the shady information happens. Obviously, this is all alleged. This is all according to Michelle Tullis. She tried to contact this guy. And the alleged driver, Ryan Spivac, immediately blocked her phone number and changed his address. He also cut his hair and got rid of the car.
Oh, wow. That's not shady at all.
Yeah, apparently Michelle Tullis was able to find the listing for body parts. This guy,
Body parts.
yeah, car body parts.
Oh, okay.
Not like actual human body parts. I'm talking about like car body parts. So he listed his vehicle, the one that he used to be an Uber driver. And this guy is an Uber driver. He had been an Uber driver apparently for 7 years. And somehow Michelle was able to connect the dots that this Ryan Spivac was the guy who was the driver that night. So he's very shady. Super shady, right? Sara's iCloud shows photos being taken until 1:22 a.m. on March 3rd. YouTube activity was until 2:40 a.m. and Gmail was synced at 2:57 a.m. So yeah, her phone stayed alive, as I understand, until around 3 a.m. that night. And now this is where I kind of want to get everyone's attention on Sarah's ex-boyfriend and the baby daddy of her daughter, Joseph. What was his name? Joseph Maines? Joseph. One second, just want to make sure. I forgot his name.
Yeah, don't mess this up.
No. I know it's important.
Please don't tell me this is another James.
No, it's a Joseph Mayton. Here we go, Joseph Mayton.
Mm-hmm.
So we have Joseph Mayton is a 44-year-old man who's quite a bit older than Sarah.
Yeah, quite.
Yeah. So he is the ex-boyfriend. And this is his image.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely looks creepy.
When did they start dating?
I'm not sure, but her daughter is around 6 years old, as I understand. So it was
6?
Yeah, so
Okay.
she, I think, was pregnant at 20. So it was quite a bit ago when she actually had the daughter.
Mm-hmm. It's okay. At one point, I was concerned she might have been a minor.
Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
No, she wasn't. She was like
Above, slightly above.
slightly above, let's say. Very young, but slightly above in that respect. And now, this Joseph Mayton is actually a pretty spooky character. Because, okay, well, first of all, Michelle Tullis claims that Joseph Mayton was actually very abusive towards Sarah,
Mm-hmm.
and even forced his way to gain kind of custody of their daughter, and was apparently very psychologically and even physically abusive towards Sarah, to the point where Sarah had to keep changing her phone numbers in order to kind of avoid this Joseph Mayton guy. And now Michelle Tullis kind of posted some incriminating posts suggesting a potential involvement of this ex-boyfriend and baby daddy, Joseph Mayton, in the case. So basically, Michelle Tullis, one of the posts that she posted on her Facebook, is actually of someone, an unknown phone number, texting her and asking her about details on Sarah's case. And then she posted back that, I can't provide you any details because I only talked to law enforcement about Sarah's case, this and that. And then this person kept insisting to get more information, this and that. And then lastly, Michelle Tullis responded that, "Have a good day, Joe," as if Joe was the person behind this anonymous phone
Joseph.
number. Yeah, Joseph Mayton. And then the messages stopped. So Joseph Mayton potentially is using fake numbers to gain information on Sarah's case, which is at this point maybe still understandable. You know what I mean? Maybe there's bad blood between the family, and maybe he doesn't want to approach her directly. And that's why he kind of gets a fake phone number and does anonymous information hunting. I kind of still would understand that.
I mean, it's kind of creepy, but do you think he even had the means to hire someone to get rid of Sarah?
Like that Uber driver somehow get involved. So basically, this is where things kind of get even more incriminatorial towards Joseph Mayton. Michelle Tullis claims that Sarah told her that she had $1,000 with her that night when she went missing, and that her intention was to take that money towards Joseph Mayton, who lived nearby in a town called Osceola. He is actually, at that time, he was working as a hotel manager, and he was living in one of the rooms in that hotel. And to give that money to Joseph, that $1,000, in order to see her daughter, because he was abusive and not letting her see the daughter. So this is bad for Joseph, because if this is true, and if Sara did have any intentions of going that evening to see Joseph, to give him the money, maybe something bad happened between them, and maybe Joseph murdered Sara and hid her body. But this is just a big kind of shot in the dark, wild speculation so far, right? Joseph Mayton, okay, there's bad blood. Wow, is this like, you know what I mean? So far, I might not be convincing everybody, but there's more suspicious information coming out of this case.
Yeah, sorry.
Please go.
Yeah, I'm just not entirely convinced about it, because if that was the case, then what about the untraceable Uber ride? And what about what happened to her phone right after 3 a.m.? I think it would take a bit of a while for her to get there to Joseph, and for him to actually murder her, get rid of the phone, get rid of the evidence and all of that.
Yeah, that is true. It would seem that way, right? Now, Joseph Mayton, that same guy, he is... I just want to make sure I get all of this straight, so that's what I'm gonna...
Hopefully his name is not James,
No.
middle name.
No. Joseph Mayton. Okay, Joseph Mayton is potentially connected to a 2006 rape and murder.
Can we say the R word here?
Yeah. Of an underage girl, Coral Rose Fullwood, who was aged 6. Coral Rose Fullwood was murdered in 2006. And I'm not going to go into details about this case, but it involves people who were pedophiles, and they were also filming Coral Rose.
And nasty stuff like that.
Yeah, nasty stuff and stuff like that. In that case, we already have a convicted criminal who was deemed to be responsible for the murder. But for some reason, in that case, there are documents that show that Joseph Mayton, the ex-boyfriend and baby daddy of Sara Ebersole, was asked to provide his DNA in that case when they were still trying to connect someone to the sexual assault and murder of a 6-year-old girl.
Well, that just changed everything.
Yeah, he was asked to provide DNA. So he was not deemed responsible, but he was asked to provide DNA, and he declined. He declined to provide the DNA in that case. Now, that case broke because there was an informant who snitched on the other 2 culprits who were involved.
Okay, so I'm a little confused. You were saying there were 3 of them.
In Coral Rose Fullwood's case,
there were 3 culprits.
Apparently, yeah. Well, as I understood, 2 of them got charged.
And then the other one
told on them.
Ah, okay.
And so some people are now potentially thinking that Joseph Mayton could have been the informant that led to the arrest.
The third guy was never identified nor prosecuted.
Yes, not
Okay.
publicly identified, never.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it could possibly be Joseph?
Joseph Mayton?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have no idea. And once again, I just want to emphasize that all of this information is coming from Michelle Tullis.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no way of proving any of this. You know what I mean? I'm just literally telling you what I've read on her Facebook posts. So once again, there is a potential chance that Sara Ebersole called Ryan Spivac, that Uber guy, to give her a ride to the Oscala hotel where her ex-boyfriend was working at, and she wanted to give him money in exchange for some time with her daughter. And then somehow Joseph Mayton potentially killed her. Also, shortly or sometime after, I'm not sure, Joseph Mayton was fired from that job.
Mm-hmm.
And a few days after he got fired, he, according to Michelle Tullis, broke into that hotel where he was no longer employed at. He was just fired. He had a spare key made. He deleted CCTV footage apparently from that hotel, and it was understood that he used another room for storage, and he cleaned out that storage room, and he ordered a moving company to move stuff out of that room. So there's a, like, if we're gonna go kind of deep dive into this case and into the theories, there's a chance that, I don't know what this means, but this could mean potentially that Joseph Mayton may have killed Sara Ebersole inside of the hotel that he was a manager at, and then removed the evidence.
Okay. From the way I understand it, he was already fired from the hotel, and then he got a spare key.
No, he was working at the time of her disappearance. He was still working there. He got fired, I think, later on that same summer, like
And then
this summer.
he got a moving van, a moving truck.
Yeah, apparently, because they were trying to evict him. You know how like there's a legal process to evict someone. It's not that easy. So he kind of ordered some moving company to move stuff from that room there where he was staying. It's a messy situation.
Yeah, it sounds a bit messy, yeah.
And yeah, that's generally what I have. I know it's kind of confusing, but I just wanted to bring attention to Sara Ebersole's case. Like, let's try to sign that petition and let's try to see what happens in this case, because it's been 9 months. Looks like this case has a lot of potential, like, to be investigated furthermore. If her sister claims that those phone records could actually bring about some sort of a resolution, then hell yeah, let's try to get Marion County Sheriff's Office to do something about it. Because I feel like this is a case where if someone doesn't take action, it's just going to be a cold case.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We're never going to know what happened to Sara Ebersole. And I feel like this is the time to actually make a change in Sara's disappearance case and just try to get something happening here, because I respect her sister very much for what she's doing, because if not for her sister, I really doubt that I would even know about this case. And on top of that, seems like this case, without a push from the community, without a push from the sister, is just gonna go cold. Maybe they're investigating something. Obviously, they might not be telling everything they have, law enforcement, but just to me seems that we need this case to get more eyeballs on it, and we need Marion County Sheriff's Office to do everything they can in the case.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? And I mean, honestly, that Ryan Spivac guy is just red flag central.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering too, because it seems like we have a lot of information on the Joseph guy, and most of the information, the ex-boyfriend or the baby daddy, most of the information that we have on him is pretty bad.
Yeah, I doubt that Michelle Tullis is gonna post anything good about that guy.
Exactly. And that kept me wondering, what about the other people involved? he was not the only person who was shady in this case. The people squatting the house, the last people Sarah has been with, pretty shady. The Uber driver, pretty shady. Joseph, pretty shady. But I don't know, this whole story kind of sounds like there's a lot more of focus towards Joseph.
Yeah, I guess I focused a little bit more on Joseph because, like, this is the only information we can find right now. What Michelle Tullis is posting, because there's no. This is the best source on the case right now. Because if you would even go with what the news outlets provide, then we wouldn't even know about that Ryan Spivac at all. Because according to the news outlets, it's even not certain if this Uber driver did show up. But I feel like the sister, Michelle Tullis, is pretty certain it was this Ryan Spivac who did that whole kind of last trip. And then his actions are super suspicious. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this Ryan guy is more suspicious to me than the Joseph guy.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know why I skipped past Ryan Spivac. I guess it's just because the sister is really connecting the baby daddy. And rightfully so, if he has some sort of a connection to a previous murder of a child back in 2006, where his DNA was asked to be provided by law enforcement, like, that's not good.
That's true.
You know what I mean? I don't think normal average day people get requests to provide your DNA for a case where a child was murdered. Like, how do you end up on the list of people to ask to provide their DNA?
That is true.
Like, I really have no idea how. But I think let's wrap it up here. I kind of, provided all the information I have on this case. I didn't do any more research. I'm keeping tabs on all of the cases that we've done recently. So I'm keeping tabs on David Schultz's case. As far as I've seen, there was no information in David's disappearance case. Remember, we talked about it last week. Nancy Ng case, the woman,
the American who drowned in Guatemala.
Yeah, also no more information coming out of that case. So yeah, I guess I'm keeping tabs on everything that we've covered lately. I'm also going to be keeping tabs on the Sara Ebersole case. My apologies if this podcast seemed kind of a little bit like all over the place, and for good reasons. Like, you and me, Rain, we know what those reasons are. Like, there's a lot of kind of moving pieces around this podcast that we had to work around, which is good. I think in the future things are going to be a little bit more orderly. But I did want to push out a podcast this week for sure. We have a very busy schedule coming up, and also really hope that everyone will enjoy their Christmas. So Merry Christmas, everyone, and we will see you with more cases very soon.
Yeah, maybe next time we could do like a holiday special or like a Christmas, I don't know, like case. Some cases that happened.
There's only one case that happened on Christmas. John Benet Ramsey. We might have to go back there. John Benet. Happy Christmas, everyone. And we'll talk to you on the next podcast.
See you.
Bye, guys. Thank you for listening. Bye.